So, in this video, I decided to go a little bit different, okay? In case you haven't noticed, I have a wrestling ring behind me, and I have a microphone in front of me. So I decided to get a little bit wacky, okay? Now, as a now self-proclaimed, what is it called? Transfer of powers to the Vtuber world. I decided to go ahead and play the Undertaker / CM Punk role. So what better way to illustrate that than to have a wrestling ring and a microphone in my setup? Alright, so with that disclaimer out of the way, okay, we're going to be talking about the biggest news in the entire nation right now when it comes to the whole tariff situation. Alright, now, I'm going to do the same thing that I have done since my last video when I tried to do this, okay? I'm going to present you guys with a bunch of screenshots with sources to this material that I'm talking about. Because there's a lot of things we need to go over that covers this entire mess. And as much as a bunch of other YouTubers tried their damnedest to define what a freaking tariff is, right? Because that's the biggest thing. Okay. But there's a VTuber on here, on this platform, that made me pretty much think, alright? Her name is Leaflet, okay? Now, I have actually mentioned Leaflet on my channel, although it being in a negative light, sort of. But I mentioned this VTuber because she had something that was very interesting to say. And it kind of opens up the doors to a lot of freaking questions, okay? Leaflet, in one of her recent videos, said, and I do think it was like her reaction to an Asmongold video, so bear that in mind. But she said something very interesting. She is trying to actually get a line of plushies, right? But because of the tariffs the way that they are, okay, she's actually going to hold back some of the things, or some of the production line, because of the tariffs. And she actually mentioned something, and I know I'm paraphrasing, okay, a little bit. I might be paraphrasing. She said something along the lines that the United States does not have the infrastructure to manufacture the quality level of plushie that she's trying to actually produce for her fans. I brought up the question about what it is about all these tariffs that are going on. Because essentially, if this Leaflet manufacturing of plushies is a smoke signal of things to come and things that have had to come, it kind of dawned on me that, well, how did we get here? And what's the point of these tariffs? The point of these tariffs, okay, is not to go haywire and go to trade war and see, like, oh, who's got the best economy in the entire world, okay? Mind you, okay, China has actually the worst economy in the entirety of the world. They just have this weird dichotomy to say, well, we're going to train our people about saying good things about China, okay? And that China is the best economy in the entire world. Well, here's the thing. Way back when, okay, and everybody knows this. Everybody should know this about the history of China and its claim to fame in the economic structure. way back when the citizens of China signed away their rights to the CCP in order to get more money and then have a higher GDP. Okay. Now, on the surface, that seems like a good thing, right? That does seem like a good thing. Signing your life's rights away and stuff like that. But we all know that later on, that really hasn't worked out. And I want to ask you all guys a question. How many times has the Chinese economy collapsed so far? In the entirety of my 40 years on this planet, it's hilariously collapsed numerous times. We're going to start off with the whole trade situation, okay? Because that's where it really kind of ramped up, okay? And it also illustrates the fact that China doesn't really necessarily have a very good foresight plan, or has a very good plan to have a long-term investment. Most of the things that China does is a get-rich-quick scheme, in dumbass terms. Because basically, what they're basically doing is that they are having economic booms, but they're not following those economic booms. For example, the one that started this all really was the bullet train situation. They created, so when they did the bullet train situation, yeah, they did create a lot of jobs, and so on and so forth, right? And it did increase the GDP. But the thing about the back then was they created a little bit too many trains. So many trains, in fact, that the cost to maintain those bullet trains outweighed the cost of the employment, the materials to build the trains, and so on and so forth. So that's when the Chinese economy started to collapse in on itself. So what do? Well, as it turns out, my history about all this, what China does, is a little bit lackluster. Okay, so, but it's getting there. Now, I don't exactly know what happened between the bullet trains and the real estate industry, but we're going to skip overhead to the real estate industry, because that's the next collapse of China's economy. The thing is that if you do a little bit of research, is that China tried its hand in the real estate thing. But lo and behold, if you do a little bit of background research, you'll begin to realize that China, well, just like the bullet train situation, didn't really succeed. Because there is a number of ghost towns in China right now. And it's not only a number of ghost towns that is in China right now, but there is a number of unfinished buildings that people are actually living in. Okay? I kid you not. People are living in unfinished buildings because these people invested into these structures, and because of how whatever laws or regulations that they have to abide by, they have to occupy the building even though it's not finished. And some of them, a lot of them have no walls, they have no AC, they have no running water. There's nothing but concrete. And you know what the funny thing about this is? is that a lot of these structures that are being manufactured right now are not structurally sound. They're made with materials that could easily fall and crumble to the floor. Yeah, so much for the real estate industry, right? Not very successful. Now we fast forward to the automotive industry. Right now, the automotive industry is one of the biggest in China, as it claims. But then again, I actually made a video which actually stated that there is illegal copies of the most famous sports cars manufactured in China today. Speed was in one of them. Apparently. Now, here's the funny thing about all this. Is that the truth is that the Chinese vehicles are actually of poor quality. So much so that unlike the fail-safe of Tesla cars, just like, if the battery dies, then the car actually just completely dies. No, any kind of drama with that. But aside from visiting and being a contributor to the Tesla graveyard, these cars actually literally explode and take the lives of their Chinese citizens. So the Chinese automotive industry is about to collapse. More so over, the Chinese also tried their hand in gaming. As per what we're seeing in Honkai Star Rail, we can basically say that right now the gaming industry in China is not looking very too good in a bright future. Right? So, this so-called tariff war between the US and China. Okay? Now I know I've been rambling on about the Chinese thing, right? Well, there is a simple reason why I'm bringing up China. It's very poor organization to bring profits to the country. Because just like China, the US is doing pretty much the exact same thing. Now, I do understand that Trump is trying to bring back jobs to the US. I get that. They're trying to give more incentive for the companies to manufacture only US-based products, right? And everything must be done in the US. But the main issue with all that, for everything to be US-based, is the mere fact that, like Leaflet said, we don't have the resources to do this. We don't have the resources to do this. In fact, here's the thing. As funny as it may seem, okay, what's going on with, we'll use the automotive industry as a stepping stone to what I'm going to be talking about. Because essentially, what happened with the automotive industry is that it's not coming back to the United States. And there's a big reason why. Okay, there's a big reason why vehicle manufacturing is not coming back in the United States. And also our attempt to annex Gaza because of the oil. Yikes. So, yeah, oil and vehicle manufacturing. I think they go back hand in hand. So the thing is that the way I'm seeing it is that the United States has not been able to have the materials needed and necessary to do vehicle manufacturing. Because we no longer have the metals. We're soon not going to be able to produce any type of oil. Because the Great Gulf of America, according to environmentalists and economists back in about a decade and a half ago, pretty much said that the Gulf of America is going to run out of oil in about 50 to 75 years. Which is why, which basically explains why Donald Trump wants to try to annex not only Gaza, but also Canada and Greenland. Now, you can look back at the screenshots and see where the proof of this is. Because I guarantee you, I included the screenshot of this. So, the thing is that Trump is trying to make things US, but we all know that's just BS. Even Trump knows about this. We don't no longer have the capacity to produce any vehicles whatsoever. Period. Nothing. Nada. Zip. Zilch. We don't have the capacity. We don't even have the capacity to make our own anime. Right? We don't. I mean, look what happened when we tried to make High Guardian Spice. That was the most enlightening thing ever. Look what we try to do when we try to compete with countries like Japan. When we made, what is it called, Concord? That went well now, didn't it? So no, essentially we don't have the what is it called? The manufacturing capacity or the capability or the materials necessary to make replicas of what happens in Japan, but we also don't have the social structure to make humor and cartoons in the United States. We saw how that happened. We saw what happened with The Simpsons. We saw it happen in South Park. And God forbid, we decide to go ahead and bring back Mad Magazine cartoons. Or Robot Chicken. Anybody remember about Robot Chicken? I certainly do. That was the greatest thing in the world. You also want to know what the greatest thing in the entire world was? The fact that we had a guy, chef, who made stereotypical black jokes. I'm not talking racist jokes, okay? There's a difference. Okay, stereotypical jokes, in case you guys don't know, actually bring back people closer together. Okay, now I know I went off with a little bit of tangent because I was trying to talk about vehicle manufacturing and stuff like that. So, yeah, so we're going to go back on track with the vehicle manufacturing. We tried. We failed. In fact, the best sports cars ever made in the entire world was from Pontiac. But because of the war in Afghanistan and the collapse of Enron, cars as famous as Dodge, which was quality, materials made in the US of A, with some maybe imports here and there. But basically everything was US made. But with technology advancing, and because of what happened back in the War of Terror with George W. Bush in Afghanistan, that no longer seems to be the case. Okay, and the reason why our car manufacturing is set over borders, overseas, and stuff like that is because, well, the EPA regulations, and because the automotive manufacturing tried to pay for the war of Afghanistan, because they tried to cover the debacle what happened with both Halliburton and Enron when they tried to fund the war on terror. And it wasn't just the NATO allies itself, too. The NATO allies contributed to the funding. But it was mostly US funded. And because of Enron and Halliburton, that didn't work out very well. History sucks, I know for sure. So is there a way to bring back jobs to the manufacturing of vehicles in the future? The answer should be pretty obvious. The answer is no. We no longer have the infrastructure. We no longer have the materials, especially the materials. That's the biggest thing in the entire world, is the materials. We don't have the materials in the world. The only thing the US is good for these days, nowadays, ever since the whole gold rush thing, and God, we lambasted and took away all the gold over there in California and I think New Mexico, right? We took all that gold. So there's no more gold in America. So the biggest thing that the United States actually has is rare earth minerals, which, if you take a look at the rare earth minerals in the United States, it doesn't look very promising now, does it? It doesn't. So what is the biggest mineral that the United States actually has? The biggest mineral that the United States actually has is coal. Yep, it's coal. But here's the thing. We can't use coal because of the EPA regulations. Just like we can't drill baby drill because of the EPA regulations. We all saw what happened when the ozone layer was thinning out over some places a long time ago. Right? We all saw that. In fact, we're living through it right now. The ozone layer is back to normal. Or is being rebuilt right now, thanks to the EPA regulations. Right? We all saw what happened in the UK, right? New England? Not New England. England. When there was like a bunch of smog problems over there. They entered EPA regulations. Is now the cleanest thing in the entire world. California, I think, was the last state in the entire world that actually cleaned up because of the EPA regulations. There was also China. China had a big problem. And I think they still do too, to this day. So, China's still got a lot of work to do. But in all fairness, I understand what's happening. But it's never going to happen. And these so-called tariff wars between the US and China, it's only going to make the Chinese populace even worse. Even the gaming industry right now Okay, even the gaming industry is fixing to collapse with the whole gotcha game industry. Okay, do you think? Okay, when it comes to computers, do you think that we, the U.S., has the capacity to make computers, especially our own versions of the 4090s, graphics cards and stuff like that? No, we don't have the capacity. We don't have the technology. Do you know who's got the technology and the skill to do it? Taiwan. Taiwan makes better GPUs and CPUs and better electronics than China. But here's the thing, a lot more electronics actually come from China. So even though that Taiwan specializes in computer chips and computer components, most of the electronics are bought from China, which is fine. But I'm still not going to be putting my orange juice in a Chinese glass bottle. That's the one thing I'm never going to do. So, with this trade war, China is getting more poor. We as the United States are getting more poor. So what's the point in this whole tariff war? Our video games, our waifu gacha games are dwindling out of existence. Look what happened with Punishing Gray Raven. Look what happened with HSR. Yeah. In March 31st of 2025, Punishing Gray Raven decided to close down their global service. That was a surprise to me because I was trying to play PGR, but I was dumb enough not to pay attention to that. The fact that PGR, I know, Wuthering Waves is taking over, and probably that's one of the reasons why PGR got deleted off the global server. I get it, that's a contributor. That's one factor, but I think the main factor is because of all this crazy nonsensical tariff war. And we're gonna start to see it happen in Genshin Impact. We're already seeing it in HSR, and pretty damn sure it's gonna end up happening with Zenless Zone Zero. But that's not the only thing that's happening. Because of these whole tariff wars and the downfall of the gaming industry, well, now I'm a little bit worried about the global release of not only Azure Premilia, but Ananta as well. I don't even think we're going to see those games happening in the US if these tariff wars actually happen. So guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We're going to end up, because we don't have the infrastructure to make anime games, we don't have the social structure, and we're so much of a snowflake. A lot of these places in the US is a bunch of a snowflake. Look at Concord. Look what happened with Assassin's Creed, the latest Assassin's Creed game that just came out. Do you think that we have these social and physical capabilities to manufacture good quality games that is like to equal that of Japan and overseas games? We don't. Everything is going to be so sensitive. Everything is going to be so political. That's why, what is it called? Conan O'Brien, David Letterman, and even Jay Leno jumped ship early on. Because why? Because jokes became too political. Cartoons became too political. We saw what happened with The Simpsons. We saw what happened with what's going on with High Garden Spice. We're now seeing it in the gaming industry. We as a society of the United States need to go ahead and look at the bigger picture of everything. We need to start fixing ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to have another SAG-AFTRA strike. Which makes absolutely no sense. I don't know what we're gonna do as far as like these tariff wars, because initially this entire mess that I was talking about is a result, or is gonna foreshadow what's gonna happen later on if this whole trade war between U.S. and China is happening. This whole tariff war is gonna end up happening. But you know what? I'm just a small-time VTuber. I have no weight to my words. Why? Because I don't even have enough subscribers to actually end up saying the things that I'm saying and my message to get out. I get it. But I'm just going to say this thing. And I'm just going to say it today. What's happening between Trump and Xi Jinping is silly. The end result is not going to be the thing that you all guys expect it to be. It just isn't. It never will. And it's going to cause our relationship between these countries of Greenland, of Canada, and even in Gaza to look at us like we're a bunch of baboons and fools. It's gonna hurt our relationship with Taiwan, with the chipset system, right? It's gonna hurt our relationship with comedy and anime with Japan. This whole thing needs to stop. We don't need this. This sets a bad precedent as to what we need to do in America. And what we need to do in America is patch up the relations between between everybody in the entire freaking world. Lower the goddamn tariffs. Because I know for damn sure, I was watching a video from Kuwait, and he said that based on the math that was being presented with Trump's little poster that he made, the numbers are a lie. The numbers are a lie. You can go watch the video from Kuwait. The numbers are a complete lie. In intent to make America great again, we're now destroying America. That's all I have to say about this. I know the video is a little bit long. I know I've been ranting a little bit. But reality needs to set in. And people are too focused on what the heck is going on with the tariff system that the people are not focusing too much on A, how we got there in the first place, and B, what the future implications are. Oh, the future implications, the future consequences is going to be astronomical. It really is. Anyways, regress que te bache. And well, have fun.